Hey, this is Connor from CourageousNerd.com, and I'm back with another interview. Joining me is actor Alan Emrys, who you might recognise from Young Wallander on Netflix, Johnny English Strikes Again, or Rob Savage's film Host. Enjoy the interview. Great. So welcome and thank you for taking the time to do this.
No problem at all, man. Looking forward to talking to you.
Great. And how have you been finding living in the pandemic?
The apocalypse. Interesting. It's I have my opinions on the people running the show. I won't go into that because we'll be here.
Yeah.
It's bizarre, you know. It's one of those. It's like the biggest life-changing moments in our generation's history. Close to short of having World War III, I don't think there's much else that could have changed our lives so much in such a short period of time.
Right.
And it's also this bizarre thing that's going on at the moment, which I think comes. Well, I'm not going to say where I think it comes from, but there's this weird thing of the denial of science, which is really not helping, and it's frustrating to see a potential repeat of history, like when we look at like the Spanish flu and all these second wave stuff, and people just but then also a lot of it's being put onto individuals, and we have to realize as much as human beings that you meet are generally quite intelligent, but the human race as a whole really is not. So we can't entrust the human race to do the right thing sometimes, which frustrates me because I do have a lot of hope for humanity. But perhaps this is I don't know. It's a bizarre time to be living in, but also a very interesting time.
Right. And yeah, I mean, of course, those are very valid points. And to move on to a kind of a different conversational topic, you're obviously an actor with a few different projects under your belt. But how did you first get started in that profession?
Oh, that was a fun one. My mum. Yeah, so my mum was doing a amateur dramatics play, Shakespeare. I think it was Much Ado About Nothing, and they needed, they just needed a messenger, so someone to come on and say one line. And I was about 11, maybe 11, 10, 11. And it for an 11-year-old Leo and middle child to have an entire audience clap and cheer and whoop and all that sort of stuff for you, it was kind of a bit of an addictive drug. But then I kind of there was an old woman there running the show called Mira Stanford Smith, and she was a Guildhall trained actress back in the day, and she sort of saw something in that energy that I gave the show and decided that it would be a good idea to start training me, as in actual, like, this isn't just a bit of fun, this is a profession, and this is something that you can start telling stories with, and telling stories not just from the point of view of purely to entertain people, but also to try and convey a message or something that you would like to try and, I don't like to say change the world because it's not that important as an actor. I'm not saving lives, but you can influence. There's the power of stories has been around for thousands and thousands of years. Ever since the human beings had language, we were telling stories, and even before that, we were cave painting before we had language to convey story. So yeah, I've just from then on, I just always had an obsession with just this wonder in telling stories, and I've always loved it. But yeah, that's how it started for me.
Right. And would you say that any fellow actors or performers have inspired you in your career?
Quite a few.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be lying to say that I feel massively inferior in comparison to some of the huge giants out there. But yeah, the biggest one for me, the one that sort of made the thing that made me want to be a performer of some sort, even before I wanted to be an actor, was David Bowie in
Ah.
Labyrinth. It's my all-time favorite film, and it's difficult to say that because obviously, when you work in this industry, or anyone really, if you ask them what's your favorite film, you have to kind of say, yeah, what kind of favorite films? What genre are we going into? But for me, all-time favorite has always been Labyrinth because it's just got this phenomenal story. It's all puppets. It's got this sort of great energy around it, and then David Bowie is just mesmerizing on screen. He always was. He was always just completely spellbinding to watch. So that's the biggest influence for me, acting wise, well, performing wise. But then there's also people like Ewan McGregor. I've said it before. He gave a great speech at the beginning. I don't know if you've ever seen The Long Way Round. It's like the documentary with him and Charlie Borman traveling from London to New York, the other way around the world on motorbikes. But he has this whole thing in there talking about never aim to be famous and aim to be successful, because you'll never be quite famous enough. And that was something that really resonated with me when I was a young actor. Anthony Hopkins, absolutely phenomenal, and Welsh, which is even better. Bryan Cranston as well, just because he slugged away for so long, and it wasn't again for me, it wasn't that thing that you have to get over by the time you're like a teenager or in your early 20s of the desire to be famous. But Cranston is the epitome of letting go of that is the best thing you can do for yourself, because he worked so hard. And if you look, he was doing commercials at the same time as doing Malcolm in the Middle. But he was always phenomenal. And he was just he was very underrated. He's now incredibly acclaimed because he just did the work. He just worked hard, and he wanted to tell stories. And it was just about the desire to tell stories, which then got him Breaking Bad, which then just completely skyrocketed him to another level. And people realized how wonderful and how generous of an actor he really is. So yeah, people like that are a huge thing for me. I'm not as much as I'd be lying to say that I wouldn't like to be famous. Everybody would like to be famous, but I would like to be famous for the right reasons, like people like Bryan Cranston, who are famous because of the amount of brilliant work that they've put out into the world.
And outside of acting, what would your other passions or interests be?
Cooking. I love cooking, and drinking, but I don't want that to come across as alcoholism. I mean, good drinking, good food. I used to work a bit as a chef, or cook, depending on how you look at it. And I've just always had a passion for it. I love cooking, and I don't want to just cook for myself. I love cooking for other people, and sort of studying another culture's food, but not just the commercial food that we get. Like Mexican is one of my all-time favorite foods, and when I first had tortilla soup, I was like, wow, who would have thought about putting tortillas in soup? But then also when you hear about it, you just think tortilla soup. What, they're just making soup out of tortillas? But it's like this spicy chicken and tomato, really bit of lime. I love how they introduce different citruses into their food. I love Mediterranean. I absolutely adore Mediterranean, Greek, Italian foods. I haven't really experimented much with Spanish. And I feel like British food gets a bit of a bad rep for just being bland and potatoes, mostly because a lot of people don't realize how to cook. And it's something that I think should be taught a lot more in school. Not just like, because you do like little bits of cooking, like how to bake a scone and all that kind of stuff, but how to properly balance food, and make it nutritionally beneficial to you as well. I kind of feel that's why a lot of people in the UK, there's this whole thing in the UK and the US and a few other countries of obesity being a huge issue. And we introduce things like sugar tax to try and to tackle it. We introduce things like sticking labels on food to tell you exactly what's in there and all these warning signs. But we're not tackling the problem from the roots, that people just don't know how to make a good, tasty, nutritionally beneficial meal. And they're also unaware of like how many calories are in different things, and that how you can fill up your plate and have a really tasty meal, but it's nutritionally balanced. And there's so many healthy meals that are absolutely phenomenally tasty, but people just don't realize, or are afraid to cook it because they're afraid of messing it up. And then, yeah, I would love to just own a cookery school or something and just teach people that cooking is therapeutic and fun. Sorry, I could talk about food for ages. Martial arts. I trained Wadakai karate since I was a kid. I got my black belt in 2013. Wadakai means peaceful way. So I love not only the physical training aspect of martial arts, but more the philosophy of it, because it's a mental discipline, which I think a lot more people in this world could benefit from, because it's quite often that, especially within this world of toxic masculinity that we live in, the way of being able to, we're not going to be able to get men to completely talk and express their emotions overnight. That's not going to happen, because that is a bigger problem that we need to navigate. But to be able to get every guy on the planet releasing that emotional tension or stress or whatever it may be somehow would be an amazing thing for the world. But also, I've never, well, I mean, there are exceptions. There are arseholes in every part of the world, but I have more often than not, if you've got someone who is a trained fighter or martial artist or whatever, 9 times out of 10, they're the last person in the world who wants to have a fight, because they are aware of how negative that is and how much damage they can cause, not only themselves, but to another person, and not only physically, but emotionally as well. They don't want to do that. It's not worth their... They've already got that out in a dojo or whatever. And it's you to be a lot more sensitive to yourself, I think. Especially doing things like kata and shadow boxing, that kind of stuff. It's a really good meditative experience, especially if you're not someone who wants to sit still to meditate.
Right. And in terms of your acting career, I would say that maybe one of your most mainstream or biggest projects would be Johnny English Reborn.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
that's a funny one.
But how did you feel kind of entering a franchise like that in the third film?
Well, to be honest, I'm barely in it. It was a strange experience for me. So, what a strange experience, but a good one, a good learning curve. So, essentially, what happened is it was my first ever job straight out the drama school.
Right.
And originally, I was supposed to film for 6 weeks. I was playing the villain's main bodyguard. It was a named role. It was really exciting. I would have got to travel a bit around Europe with it as well. But I filmed for 1 day, and then I got a phone call from my agent the day after, or a day or two after, something like that. And he basically said, "I'm really sorry, and I feel gutted for you, but they've written your character out of the film." And he just wanted to. He stressed to me, "There's nothing to do with your acting. It's nothing to do with that at all. They've just decided that physically it doesn't work," which I can only presume to be that essentially me and the villain were of similar build.
Yeah.
So it doesn't exactly work that I'm playing his bodyguard or his lackey or his henchman or whichever word you want to use.
Right.
Because it just didn't work physically, and it taught me it was quite a slap in the face at the beginning of because it's my first ever job, and my agent Jonathan said that he said, I feel so bad for you. I want you to realize that this happens sometimes. It's just really unfortunate that this happened on your first job.
Yeah.
But it just taught me that it's not personal when these things happen. It's purely business. And sometimes these things they can't tell until the cameras are rolling and they see two people together, and either a chemistry doesn't work, or like in this case, a physicality doesn't work, or something like that. And it's nothing to do with you as an actor. It's just it is you as an actor, but it's not you. It's not to do with your acting. It's to do with you. Yeah, it was a difficult pill to swallow. Let's say that.
Yeah. Just as a minor note, by the way, for anyone who might be listening to this, I actually got the name of the film wrong that you were involved with. It's Johnny English Strikes Again. I mean, I'm sure there'd be some like super
okay.
sharp-eared person who put me up on it in the whatever. But yeah,
don't worry. That's just our comeback to them for cutting me from the film. We'll name the film wrong.
Yeah. No, I was thinking of the one before it, which is up. Yeah. Anyway, aside from I mean, you kind of touched on it because obviously, the fact there was a learning experience. You have Rowan Atkinson, Emma Thompson, Kevin Eldon in that film. That's I mean, I considering like you were saying, that was your first job out of drama school. That's quite an impressive cast list to be on coming out of drama school.
It was very intimidating. Like I say, I mean, I watched Johnny English growing up, and I've always loved Rowan Atkinson. Rowan Atkinson is a genius. He really is. And I was surprised really because I met him very, very briefly, because he was in the scene that I filmed, and he's a completely very different to what you would expect, especially from growing up watching Mr. Bean and Johnny English and all these sort of slapstick characters that he plays. He's very serious, sort of he's not rude. That's not at all what I'm saying. He's lovely, but he's very sort of straight down the barrel kind of guy. And very involved with the process of the filming, very collaborative with the production team. I mean, I can't speak much more about him because I only met him for 10 seconds or so as a human being. I mean, I did the scene with him and was about 30 yards away, but yeah, it was exciting and intimidating at the same time.
Yeah, and more recently in 2020, you're appearing as Gustav on Netflix's Young Wallander. And what was that the role that you auditioned for, and what attracted you to the project?
That was the role I auditioned for, yeah. And I was brought in to audition for it by Sophie Holland, who is a phenomenal casting director. So it was Sophie Holland and her associate Finian. And it was really, really fun reading in there because it felt like there's quite often when you go into castings, which is just part of the business, that it will be a very much in and out experience. You go in, you read, you leave, because they're seeing, I don't know, they may be seeing 50 people in that day, and they've got time to keep. But with Sophie and Finian, it was very much a collaborative experience. Like we discussed what we both feel about the character. I got to share my opinions on some of their life choices, and how I felt Gustav should be played. And then we went from there, and it was very much an enjoyable playful experience for me, which I love about acting. I think it should always be playful or and childlike. So what attracted me to the role, there was an element at the beginning of, because when I first got offered it, I'd never seen Wallander or anything like that. I was offered the audition just through my agent, and so at that point it was mostly like I just want to work, because I'm a working class actor. I want to go work. But then once I read the script, it was just so. There's a strange thing that happens when a script is well written, that it's easy to learn, because that you can tell that the writer kind of has put the thoughts together properly. There are occasionally scripts that you're like, I can't learn this, and it just because that it's quite jagged. It's kind of like trying to drive a car and you haven't quite learned to change the gears yet. But with the script, it just flowed. I was able to learn the lines overnight, like in an hour. It just sat so naturally with me that I was really, really hopeful that I would get the part. And I did, and got to go and play in Lithuania for 6 weeks, with a phenomenal cast. So it was amazing.
Yeah, and Netflix obviously has a large global platform. So how different of an experience do you think the show is having in terms of reach and like compared to being aired on normal TV?
Well, that's the thing. It's literally, there's so many people, there's Netflix on almost every single country on the planet. And especially with Wallander, I think it's in quite. I haven't checked exactly how many different languages they're airing it in, because I've only seen it in my native language. Might be quite interesting to hear myself in Italian or something. But it's Wallander's very much. From my understanding, it's kind of like Sweden's answer to James Bond. I mean, minus the theatrics and the secret agent kind of stuff. He's their kind of James Bond-esque hero character, the guy who's going to figure it all out, the detective.
Right.
So it's been in the top 10 and number 1 in quite a few of the Nordic countries. Germany, it's out. It's insane. Like it literally is being seen all over the world. It's an interesting thing, that the world that we're living in, that we can. I don't know where I'm going with this. It's just mind-boggling. Thinking about it, it's absolutely mind-boggling that it's literally all over the world.
Right.
It's brilliant and insane and crazy, and yeah.
And another of your projects is the film Host, which came out this year, and it's very timely during the pandemic. It's set during that time. So how did it feel to kind of be in a project set during the time that we're in, as opposed to doing a period piece or something that was in the past?
It was interesting. It was. I mean, I have to talk. So I get asked a lot of questions about Host, which is fascinating, because the horror film and horror fan community is wonderful. They're so vocal about what they love, and they really invest into everything, like, brilliantly. I've been blown away by it. Because even for myself, I have a cameo appearance because I was home. It's filmed in our house. It's filmed in that was filmed in our flat. My girlfriend Radina is one of the main characters. So I kind of feel a little. There's a strange part of me that feels a little bit like an imposter answering these questions about Host, because I barely did anything. I was mostly helping behind the scenes. Like I was Radina's boyfriend within the imagined scenario that they were in. But people like Jed and Rob and Radina and Haley and Gemma and Emma, Caroline, Haley, they're the real absolute bosses of that film. They're phenomenal. Right. Absolutely incredible work. But yeah, it's fascinating filming in that lockdown situation, because you kind of think, like, when you're in it really did breed creativity for some. I mean, that's talking from a very privileged point of view. I didn't have to worry about being thrown out of my house or putting food on the table, because I was only taking care of myself and my girlfriend.
Right.
And the same for Radina. She's only having to think about herself and me, really. I mean, I feel very lucky to have been able to work on that, and also very lucky to be one of the people who, in the grand scheme of things, managed to have a relatively positive experience during lockdown. I mean, obviously, we all had our moments of complete insanity and banging our head against the wall, trying to figure out what is this life that we're living right now. But yeah, it's fascinating to work on something that was set during one of the pinnacle moments of the 21st century.
And this is the last question I've got, and it's kind of speaking of the pandemic. Obviously, we're all living in trying and challenging times right now. So, if you could, what message or sentiment would you offer to fans of the things you've been in? If you could send something out.
What message would I give them? Reach out for help if you need it.
Yeah.
Please, there are people that can help, but also look after each other. I mean, there's lots of things going around at the moment that generate a division within our society, and it's a scary time to care for each other. Really, just honestly care for one another, and don't buy into this extreme paranoia of your neighbor is out to get you, or the person next door is causing all the problems, or the immigrants coming into the country are causing all these issues. Whatever it may be, just don't buy into that divisive thought process, and realize that this is the biggest time the human race should be pulling together and taking care of one another. And if you're able to donate to charitable funds, if you're in a fortunate position, do help other people, because there are people out there who are seriously struggling. And on a slightly different note, if you have a favorite bar or a favorite restaurant or something to do in the hospitality industry, especially what's happened as of tomorrow, please just go in. Don't break the rules. Go in, have a drink, tip big, because these people are terrified for their jobs. There's so many people who are in awful positions, and if you're one of them, like I said, please ask for help. The human race is a wonderful thing. People will help you, and yeah, there's other things I would love to say, but it's forcing my opinions on others, which is not the right thing to do. So yeah, my general thing is just please help other people as much as you can. Do your best to not think about only yourself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, think about yourself when you need to.
Great. So if that's all good, I can stop the recording.
Yes. I mean, if anybody is interested in following me, jump on Instagram. It's Alan _Emrys. I'll probably be on here.